the main occupation of the pure devotee. Uddhava is separable, and therefore he started Tubadrik Ashram in obedience to the Lord's order, because the order of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical. As long as one is engaged in the execution of the order of the Lord, there's no factual separation from him. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyanandana Salakaya Shakshurun Minitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Uddhava had been so much favored by the Lord. Uddhava, when he was younger, he was Krishna's cousin, so they had a family relationship. So in that way, they grew up together. And then he even looked similar to Krishna, as Krishna had a blackish complexion. Being a family member, he also had a similar complexion. He also was wearing similar dress and so on. So Uddhava's connection with Krishna was just there from the very onset of his life. Later, Uddhava became a disciple of Brihaspati, who is the spiritual master of the demigods. So therefore, Uddhava became extremely learned because he had the best teacher. The demigods, they have more information than we have here. It is said here, Srimad Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses, and in the heavenly planets, Srimad Bhagavatam is 100,000 verses. I wouldn't mind having a copy of that if anyone goes up there, bring one over. That would be interesting. Would be interesting. Have a look at that. So anyway, all I heard about is they have a Bhagavatam with 100,000 verses. That'd be interesting. So Uddhava undoubtedly was extremely learned, and later on that shows, because in Dwarka, Krishna was treated in a royal fashion. Although Krishna was not the ruling king at the time, because after Krishna had defeated Kamsa in Mathura, and he had killed him, and it was that whole pastime of killing Kamsa that was completed, where Krishna came to Mathura and broke that bow, the bow of Vishnu, where he just tripped this elephant, Kuvalayadipa. He just put his foot in front of the elephant, and the elephant tripped. I mean, who can do such a thing? But Krishna could. And then there was the wrestling match, and Krishna and Balaram, they both defeated Chanura and Mustika, and Krishna hit that demon wrestler on the head, and it said his eyes popped out of the sockets and were just dangling like that. So it certainly was a serious wrestling match, and the wrestler was defeated. Subsequently, after that, Kamsa became very upset after Krishna had killed the wrestlers. Then Krishna had another wrestling match, this time with the cowherd boys, and then Krishna was defeated. Then it got too much for Kamsa. And Kamsa said, confiscate all the property of Nanda Maharaj. Then what could Krishna do? He had to protect Nanda Maharaj. Otherwise he was hesitant about killing his uncle. But then, he jumped over the royal guard into the dais and killed Kamsa. very easily and quickly. He slapped Kamsa. Kamsa's crown fell off his head, and then Kamsa fell off the platform, and he fell on the ground, and he was dead. And then Krishna was beating the dead body to show that he was really dead. And that was the end of Kamsa. That was Kamsa's demise. Subsequently, we are seeing how then Jarasandha comes, attacks 17 times with a huge army. At that point, Krishna is thinking that this might not be good for Mathura, and Krishna leaves Mathura. Also, it is said that the last time Jarasandha brought in an ally, because he'd been defeated 17 times. So this time he brought in the king of the Yavanas. And there was some curse that the king of the Yavanas could not be defeated by the Yadus. So, knowing this, he brought the king of the Yavanas. And the Yavana king came, but then Krishna left the battlefield. And the Yavana king was running after Krishna. You coward, right? Turn around and fight. And Krishna did not turn around, and he just walked away. But Krishna was walking, and the Yavana king was running. So something was not quite right there. Krishna casually walked, and this Yavana king running at full speed, and still he could not catch up. Then Krishna entered a cave. There, in that cave, King Muchukunda, who had been fighting on behalf of Indra for the demigods, was sleeping. He had a benediction from Indra as reward, and since Indra was always coming to ask him to fight against the demons, this time he had asked for the benediction that whoever might wake me up will be burned as soon as I look upon him, right, to ashes. So no one was waking up Muchukunda. Not even Indra. But the Yavana king, he thought that it was Krishna who was sleeping in the cave. So he kicked him. Then Muchukunda opened his eyes and burned the Yavana king to ashes. So finally, Krishna then, along with Balaram, proceeded along the road, and then Parasuram came. And Parasuram, he recognized Krishna as the Supreme Lord, and since Parasuram was a powerful warrior, Parasuram gave military advice. And Parasuram said to Krishna and Balaram, why don't you take shelter of a mountain? Because a mountain is a natural fort. So then Krishna and Balaram went upon this mountain. Then Jarasandha and his close associate was the king of Chedi. The king of Chedi is none other than Sishupal. So the king of Chedi, along with Jarasandha, then followed Krishna and Balaram and came to the mountain. Then the king of Chedi said, I have a great idea. What we do is we pack lots of wood at the bottom of this mountain and then set it on fire. And they'll be roasted upon that mountain. Brilliant old chap, Jarasandha said. That was very, very, very good. And they did it. And Harivamsa describes what really happened. Harivamsa says that when the soldiers set the wood on fire and the mountain was burning, that actually Krishna and Balaram were on top of the mountain. And Krishna and Balaram were engaged in having lots of fun because Balaram had found honey on top of the mountain. And because Balaram likes honey, he drank too much of that honey. As a result, he became intoxicated. So, meanwhile, they set fire to the mountain, Jarasandha and his men, and the result was that the mountain cracked, and the natural water came out of the mountain, and because of the fire, it turned into steam, and that steam created pressure, and then all the stones started flying all kinds of rocks started flying, which killed the army of, or a good portion of the army of Jarasandha. This is all Harivamsa. Subsequently, it said that because Balaram was intoxicated, he jumped off the mountain, which was 80 kilometers high. And then what could Krishna do? Then he also jumped. So Balaram landed first. Then he had his club and his plow in his hands. And he killed a good portion of Jarasandha's army. And then Krishna came down a little later and knocked over another portion of the army. And then they went to Prabhas Kshetra. And there they made the city of Dwarka in the ocean. It was actually Vishwakarma, the architect of the demigod, who built the city. There, then, Krishna lived in great royalty. Krishna, then we remember how at one point his wife, he brought her the parijata from the heavenly planets. And Indra became upset, it became a fight, and then Indra became defeated. So in that fight, Krishna did not only bring the parijata, but he also brought the Sudharma assembly house. And this Sudharma assembly house was a very auspicious place, because when you were in there, nobody would ever get sick while being in that Sudharma assembly house, nor did anyone would get any older. There was no question of aging while you were in the Sudharma assembly house. So it was a kind of place where people would like to spend some time. You can understand. Anyhow, in that Sudharma assembly house, now I'm jumping to the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it is described how Krishna then would daily assemble with the residents of Dwarka, and they would sit in a royal formation. Krishna would be seated on a throne. Next to him, Vasudeva would be seated on another throne. Then Ugrasena, whose throne was a little forward since he was formerly the ruling king. Then on the other side of Krishna was Satyaki, the military commander. And like this, they were seated in the royal court. It is said that Uddhava was also there. And Uddhava, when he was there, Uddhava was very close with Krishna. And somehow or other, because Uddhava was very learned, he would speak with Krishna in Sanskrit. And then not only in Sanskrit, but he would also quote from different verses, and just one word or two words. And then Krishna and Uddhava understood what he meant. But it went way over the head of everyone else. So in this way, Uddhava would speak with Krishna in a code language. He was very close and intimate with Krishna. Then, after having spent sufficient time in the royal assembly house, then they went to the house, Krishna would retreat to his quarters. And then everyone would follow. And everyone would just come into Krishna's quarters. And then at one point, Krishna announced that now everyone could go, and that because he needed to rest a little. So then everyone went except Uddhava, because Uddhava thought it didn't apply to him. Because Uddhava was so intimate with Krishna that when everyone had to leave, obviously it didn't mean Uddhava. And then Uddhava would stay and massage Krishna's legs and so on while Krishna was resting. Therefore, in Dwarka, Uddhava was certainly the best devotee. Then, in the Uddhava Sandesh, a book written by Rupa Goswami, it is described that Krishna was standing on the roof of his palace. And Krishna was in great separation of the residents of Vrindavan. Hare Krishna. Now, somehow or other, in the Uddhava Sandesh, it is not taking place in Dwarka, it is taking place in Mathura. So whatever it is, Krishna is on the roof of his palace and he's looking at Vrindavan. And he is thinking of the residents of Vrindavan. And he is thinking how they are in separation from him. And he's thinking, he knows that they are on the verge of death. So it is a great emergency. agency, and therefore Uddhava is thinking, or Krishna is thinking, I have to send a messenger. But who to send? And he's thinking and thinking and thinking who to send. And he can't think of anyone who's qualified. And he's going over everyone, and no one seems to be the right person. Finally, he sees Uddhava, and then he thinks, Uddhava, it's Uddhava. How could I not think of Uddhava? So then he decides that Uddhava should go, because Uddhava, he is very learned. So Uddhava can maybe pacify the anxiety of the residents of Vrindavan by giving them a more philosophical perspective. Another reason why Uddhava is the right person to go is because Uddhava looks exactly like Krishna, very similar. So naturally, if he would go as the messenger, people would remember him. So this would also be very, very good. So therefore, he decides that it's Uddhava. And he explains very carefully to Uddhava how to go to Vrindavan. He tells him which route to go, what holy places he will come to, and describes the whole route. And then he asks Uddhava to meet with Balaram so that Balaram can give Uddhava all the necessary blessings. So that when Uddhava has all the necessary blessings, that then he can go to Vrindavan and learn that he can teach the residents of Vrindavan to not be so affected, because even in separation from Krishna, what is the difference between separation and meeting? There is no difference. Separation from Krishna immediately brings about remembrance of Krishna. And remembrance of Krishna is so full. Everything is there. In this world, when we have a material object or a material relationship, remembrance is not the same as the real thing. So when the prince is in separation from the princess, or then he is fasting and dying of separation, and he's only happy when he's with the princess again. But on the spiritual platform, separation is of a different nature, because on the spiritual platform there is remembrance in separation, and that remembrance is of such a deep nature that it is fulfilling the heart. It is enough. If you just remember Krishna, it is enough to get completely absorbed. Therefore, whether in separation or whether in meeting, somehow or other, in any condition, when one is absorbed in Krishna consciousness, one is fully inspired, and that comes out in this purport. A pure devotee of the Lord of the standard of Uddhava constantly associates with the Lord in the double perception of simultaneous separation and meeting. So in both of them he is associating with the Lord, in separation through remembrance. Anyhow, then Uddhava was sent to Vrindavan. On the way, Jiva Goswami writes in Gopal Champu, he writes, was it the chariot that took Uddhava to Vrindavan, or was it his mind? Was it his desire? Clearly it was his desire that was the vehicle that brought him to Vrindavan. So Uddhava was very, very ecstatic. And as he saw the different trees, he saw each of these trees as a desire tree. And he saw how each tree was a devotee of Krishna. And in that way he saw Krishna in every tree. And so Uddhava, as he was approaching Vrindavan, he was in great ecstasy. When Uddhava came finally to Vrindavan, he there first came to the house of Nanda and Yasoda. And when he came to the house of Nanda and Yasoda, he saw that they were just completely overwhelmed in separation. And between the two of them, they were in a state of transcendental madness. Yasoda was just constantly lamenting. A stream of milk was flowing from her breast, just thinking of Krishna. A stream of tears was flowing of her eyes in separation from Krishna. When Uddhava saw her, Uddhava thought, if she goes on like this, she's going to become a river. And then Uddhava was just amazed to see this separation. And Yasoda was saying, "Oh Nanda Maharaj, how could you let him go with Akrura? How could you do it?" And Nanda Maharaj was saying, you mad woman, what are you talking? Krishna has just gone to the forest. Soon he'll be back. You're worried about nothing. In this way, Nanda and Yasoda were totally confused and totally mad in separation. And Uddhava had never seen anything like it. He was so amazed by the devotion of the residents of Vrindavan that he became humbled. He actually in front of them realized, I have no devotion at all, which was Krishna's additional purpose. It is said that one who is daksha, one who is expert, he can fulfill many purposes with one act in the nectar of devotion. So Krishna is like that. So Krishna wanted to send a message to the gopis and to Nanda and Yasoda and the other residents of Vrindavan, and in particular to Srimati Radharani. But of course, and Krishna simultaneously wanted to fulfill another purpose, and that Uddhava, who was a little bit proud of being the greatest devotee in Dwarka, would actually become more humble and would see that he would have no devotion at all. In this way he sent Uddhava. And Uddhava, when the gopis saw him, they thought, first from a distance they thought he was Krishna. When they saw him more close up, they saw he's not Krishna. But who is he? He looks like Krishna. So they were interested, except for Radharani, who didn't even see him and who took a bumblebee as a messenger of Krishna, because this bumblebee was going from flower to flower and taking a little honey everywhere, just like Krishna is a lampato, a debauchee, who is going from one lady to another lady and is thus not loyal. So therefore she said to the bumblebee, you unreliable servant of an unreliable master, you can go and you can tell your master that I am not interested in him. Then the bumblebee left, and then she got worried. Oh my God, now she'll tell all this to Krishna, and then what will Krishna think? I mean, maybe he'll get upset, and maybe he'll just really want to come back. Right? So that is not good. So then after some time the bumblebee came back, and then Radharani was very sweet with the bumblebee, in the hope that the bumblebee would now speak sweetly and give a sweet message to Krishna. So all these pastimes took place. Uddhava then became thoroughly humble in front of the dedication and devotion of the residents of Vrindavan. And then Uddhava prayed to become a blade of grass, and so that the residents of Vrindavan could step on his head, so that the dust of their lotus feet could purify him. That was his desire. And then next to Kusam Saravar we see that little temple of Uddhava, where that particular place is where Uddhava prayed to be the blade of grass. Now, after that, Krishna instructed Uddhava again. And this time there was a big discussion between Krishna and Uddhava. And that exchange is known as the Uddhava Gita in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And that Uddhava Gita is a very elaborate discussion, much because, after all, Uddhava was very learned. And therefore Uddhava asked many more technical questions that Arjuna never asked, being Kshatriya. So, therefore, in that Uddhava Gita, we find a lot of detail. We find a lot of detail about Varna Ashram. We find a whole section dedicated to mystic power. It describes many mystic powers from the mode of ignorance, mystic powers arising from the mode of passion, from the mode of goodness, and pure transcendental mystic powers. And in this way, the Uddhava Gita is actually a very important portion of the Bhagavatam, and can also be read as a separate work, and is certainly something to take note of, and something to study, and something that can refine our understanding of the Bhagavad philosophy. So, in this way, Uddhava became a very major personality. And then, after instructing Uddhava in the Uddhava Gita, then Krishna revealed to Uddhava that soon he would be winding up his pastimes. And Uddhava said, oh, then I also don't want to stay. And then Krishna said, no, I have chosen you. I have chosen you to be my messenger. He said, because there are many devotees in Badrik Ashram, or in Badrinath, which are somehow or other, I wasn't able to go there and give them a personal darshan. Therefore, I want you to go there. And in this way, now for the second time, Uddhava was chosen to be the messenger. Then Krishna left the planet. And Uddhava was one of the few survivors of the Yadus. The entire Yadus dynasty became caught up in this fratricidal war where they got drunk and were fighting with each other. And we remember that one of them, the princess Samba, had been playing, and he had gone to some sages, and he had put dressed up in a sari and made a false belly, right, as if, and acting like a pregnant lady to fool the sages. And they asked the sages, so what will it be, a boy or a girl? And then the sages said, that which you will give birth to will be the destruction of the entire Yadu dynasty. And then it was a lump of iron. Right? So they had this lump of iron. So what to do with it? So Ugrasena decided that what they would do with it is they would file it to powder and throw the powder into the ocean. And they thought that would do it. But that powder, somehow or other by the current, washed ashore, and the powder entered into the water, and it got sucked up by local reeds, which then became hard and like steel. And in this way, then the Yadus, they became drunk, and then they had a mock fight, and they were fighting with reeds, but because the steel was in there, they all killed each other. So anyway, all this had happened, but Uddhava was a survivor. No? And somehow or other, Uddhava was then overwhelmed by separation of the Lord. He was totally paralyzed, and he would just sit there, and tears were in his eyes, and Uddhava couldn't speak. And that is what we're reading earlier in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that Uddhava is just totally overwhelmed by separation, stunned, not being able to speak, totally overwhelmed by ecstatic remembrance of Krishna. Not only is he in separation remembering Krishna, but he is overwhelmed by ecstatic symptoms. So his remembrance is not just, I'm remembering Krishna. No, he was becoming totally ecstatic while remembering. Then Vidura came. Vidura had left home. Vidura had been insulted by Duryodhana, put his bow in the door, and Vidura left for his 30-year pilgrimage. And during that time, he met Uddhava. And as he then met Uddhava, then Vidura was amazed. Vidura was undoubtedly the greatest devotee among the Kurus. There was no one. Vidura was always the devotee. Always. He was always giving spiritual instructions. As Uddhava was in Dwarka, Vidura was in the Kauravas' presence. And he would be reminding everyone of Krishna, and he was just full of spiritual inspiration. So when Vidura left home, so-called to take Vanaprastha, to look for more spiritual advancement, actually Vidura was very happy now that he could just dedicate all his time to Krishna, because he was already a fully absorbed devotee of Krishna. But then the difficulty was, he came to Uddhava, and Uddhava was just totally overwhelmed. And in this way, Vidura also got a taste. He also got a taste of that unique quality that was there in the residents of Vrindavan, because Vidura could see that it still had made such a deep impression on Uddhava, that Uddhava was just remembering these residents of Vrindavan and their love for Krishna, and that he was just simply deeply meditating on Krishna and his eternal associates in Vrindavan. And that gave Vidura a tremendous boost. Tremendous. Although Vidura's devotion was deep, he was now touched also by a drop of this Vraja Bhakti through Uddhava. So Vidura also became greatly ecstatic. He then wanted that Uddhava would be his teacher, but Uddhava refused because Uddhava was younger than Vidura. So he sent him to Maitreya, and that will come up later in the Bhagavatam. We stick with Uddhava, who is going now that Vidura has come. Uddhava is sort of getting activated. Vidura managed to get Uddhava to speak, and Uddhava to, after a while, Uddhava finally started speaking about Krishna. First he couldn't speak, and then once he started speaking, he couldn't stop speaking. He just kept on speaking about Krishna's glories and the glories of the residents of Vrindavan. And in this way, Uddhava was very ecstatic, and Vidura was very ecstatic, but then again, Uddhava felt that great separation. And then comes that very important statement from this purport, where it is stated at the end that Uddhava was not just remembering Krishna, or not just remembering the devotees of Krishna. It said, but he was remembering the order of Krishna, because the Lord had told him to go to Badrik Ashram. And then it said, and as long as one executes the order of the Lord, or of the pure devotee of the Lord, the representative of the Lord, then one is not separated from the Lord. Now this is the most relevant to us, because we are in that position, that we are not able to associate with Krishna directly, other than in his deity form. We are not able to receive direct instructions from Krishna. We're receiving instructions to scripture, through the spiritual master, through the mouth of the devotees, Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. But that in a sense is indirect. We cannot hear directly like Uddhava could hear. So in this way, but executing the order of the Lord and of his pure devotee, that we can do. And that is our mission. That is Prabhupada's mission, to somehow or other take the order of the Lord. And of course, Prabhupada's order is the order. We received the order to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada simply repeated the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which was to tell everyone in the entire universe about Krishna. So in this way, we are empowered by the order of the Lord to act as his instrument and to be in his association. And in this way, we are always with Krishna. Always. Simply, intimately connected. His messenger. So just as Uddhava was the messenger, we're also meant to be messengers. Therefore, Uddhava is a very important role model for us. It's also interesting to see how when Uddhava came to Vrindavan, how in a sense he could not enter. He could not enter. He could not enter into the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. It wasn't possible. And we are behind Uddhava. So we can also not enter into Vrindavan. So in this way, just like Uddhava, we take shelter of the instruction of the Lord and the instructions of his representatives. And then through those instructions, we can be connected, fully connected. And there's no difference in being personally connected to the Lord or being connected to his instruction. And therefore, we can also get the full mercy of the Lord, just as Uddhava received. And this is the amazing nature of devotional service, that anybody in that way can become connected to the Lord. And the most important limb of devotional service, the most important aspect of devotional service, is the chanting of Hare Krishna. Therefore it says in the Adi Purana, mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion, whoever chants Hare Krishna is associating with Krishna directly. So that is our main thing, to somehow or other chant Hare Krishna so that we can directly associate with Krishna. And that is the first and foremost process, beyond deity worship, beyond residing in the Holy Dham, beyond Srimad Bhagavatam, beyond associating with devotees, is the chanting of Hare Krishna, which is the most ideal way to intimately connect with Krishna. But because we cannot chant all day, we just can't. It is, our mind cannot remain fixed so long. Therefore, we engage in so many things in the service of Krishna. And as long as we do so upon the order of our founder Acharya, then we'll be connected to Krishna and everything will be perfect. Okay. I'll end with that. Any questions? Any comments? Yeah. Well, when Haridas Thakur was doing that, it was perfect. Because when Haridas was chanting all day, he was not just chanting for himself. He was also chanting to invoke the mercy of the Lord upon all living beings. So Haridas's chanting was perfect. It was achar and prachar. It was both perfect behavior in his own sadhana, and it was perfect prachar, perfect preaching. So if we chant like Haridas all day, then certainly, then we should chant all day, Kirtanya Sadahari. But we can't. For one thing, the requirement is that one is completely humble. So we're already struggling there. That is a slight complication. Humility is very difficult to thoroughly realize. So therefore, we cannot chant all day. Therefore, although the question is philosophically relevant, on the other hand, it is not relevant because it is really theoretical. We are in a different condition. We're in a struggling condition. We're somehow or other flooded with mercy. It's very hard for us to realize humility. The pride is very deeply rooted, and as a result, we cannot chant all the time. We can barely chant 16 rounds. And now, but we can engage the senses in the service of Krishna. I used an example from palmistry where it says that if you look through the fingers are divided in 3 parts. The bottom part of the hand, the fingers, is the gross sensual platform. The middle part is the mental platform, and the top part is the intellectual platform. Now, Srila Prabhupada explains in one lecture that when our energy is on the sensual platform, that then we should engage in devotional service by engaging the senses in the service of the Lord. When our energy is on the mental platform, then we should engage the mind in regular hearing about Krishna, in making plans for Krishna, in Krishna's service. And if we're on the intellectual platform, all right, then we can deeply penetrate in the philosophy and the and then also study and teach. And when we are still one level beyond that, then we are on the pure platform of transcendental love. But according to our level, if we are on the platform of pure transcendental love, then Kirtanya Sadhari is possible. When Haridas Thakur, when he purified that prostitute, he purified her to a point where she was ready to chant 300,000 names a day, 172 rounds. One cannot chant 172 rounds a day. Not possible, unless one has love of God. Even if we could do it one day, if we could, maybe, if we're very determined, one day, 172 rounds. The next day, we wouldn't be able to do it again. Impossible. We'd probably be in the hospital the next day. From 172 rounds would be just too much. So in this way, we can see that Kirtanya Sadhari is really far from us, because our energy is still there to a degree on the sensual platform. How many times do we have to withdraw the mind and senses? Uddhava saw this beautiful young girl, and Uddhava said, "What's happening here? My mind is attracted to this girl." He said, "How can that be?" He said, "But my mind is attracted to this girl just like it's attracted to Krishna. I think it's Krishna in the form of a girl." Right? So, now I'm speaking from the male perspective, using the example of Uddhava. But, the same, the other way around, females also think of men, of the opposite sex. And how can we not? And we cannot just think like Uddhava, that we are attracted to some girl or some boy, because actually it's Krishna in disguise. No, we are really attracted, and then we have to pull back. By intelligence, we pull back. By controlling the mind, which wants to fix on the senses, we pull back the mind from the senses with the intelligence. So we are still on the central platform. We're just fighting with the senses. And we have the technique. We have learned how to do it, but we're fighting with the senses. Then the mind, how much fighting with the mind is there? So in this way we engage the senses, we engage the mind, and the intellect. The intellect, it is so easy to start using the mind and the intellect for the wrong purposes. And we are maybe drawn too much to the platform of Gyan and not sufficiently focused on bhakti. Therefore, Kirtaniya Sadahari, to always chant the holy name, is really impossible for us now. And we're just looking for as much mercy as we can get, wherever we can get. Therefore, is there any service I can do? And since I know driving service is easy for me. Since I know something computers, that's easy for me. Since I like music, music is easy for me. Since I have certain skills, it's easy when I serve according to my skill set. And in this way, we are just taking advantage of the mercy. And where's the question of Kirtaniya Sadahari? Very difficult. But something we strive for, but certainly not something we have realized. That's what I'm thinking in this regards, in answer to your question. Any other question? Good. Then I thank you very much. It was very nice to be with you. It was very nice to see the festival this year. Then the marriage extended the festival also. It was very nice to see how things are blossoming on the farm. Those who are visiting, please come again. And come here for every festival as a service to Lord Nrsingadev. Because that's how you get the mercy of Lord Nrsingadev. Let us realize that this place is a place of pilgrimage, which is not just a local temple. There are many local temples in ISKCON, but some temples are more than local temples, just like the temple of the Vedic Planetarium in Mayapur is the World Temple. And this temple is a European temple. It is for the entire continent. It is Lord Nrsingadev is not just a local deity. He's not just a German deity. Lord Nrsingadev is the deity specifically appeared for all of Europe. And therefore, those who are here, let's spread the fame of this place for all of Europe. Sometimes they ask me, what should we do here in this place? Well, as far as I can see, 3 things. One is develop this place as a place of pilgrimage and spread the fame of Nrsingadev way beyond borders. I'm planting little deities all over South Africa. They're already talking about coming here. Right? I think more South Africans will start coming just because little Nrsingadev, the little Gokul Nrsingadev deities, they are everywhere. I need a few actually to bring to various places around the world. People are asking me for it. Yeah, this morning they're asking. So spread the glories, make more deities, make beautiful posters of Lord Nrsingadev, make beautiful clothes related to Lord Nrsingadev, put them everywhere, all over the world, all over Europe, in America, everywhere. In this way, let the fame of Lord Nrsingadev spread everywhere. Build an incredible web presence, make it famous as a place of pilgrimage. That's one thing. Second thing, it is a farm, and there are, lots of plants, and there are lots of cows in the region. It is the eco-identity. The whole world, climate, the polar caps are melting. Everyone is alarmed. The whole world's afraid. What's going to happen? Will it in the future be that the farm will be at sea? That the beach will be right down there at the base of the hill. By that time, Holland will be underwater. That's for sure. And New York as well, and many other places, and so on. They say now they're expecting that in 100 years the sea levels will rise 2 meters. That's serious, because Greenland starts to melt now like anything, and that's a lot of ice. So they're getting worried now. All right, so let us then realize that an eco-identity is gold. The whole world is hankering for an eco-solution. Show them. Eco-village. Oh yes. So, number 1 was place of pilgrimage. Number 2 is the eco-village. Develop it in various ways. Go green, right? Gaur Mahan is really green, wearing a green sweater, has green borders, and even a chadar that was green I saw. He's got the message. He is going green. I'm telling you. That is the spirit of the day. So that was 2. Place of pilgrimage, and go 3. And number 3 is a resort. Everyone needs a break. Oh, everyone needs to get out of just the daily routine from Monday to Friday and working like a dog and being squeezed in the office behind a computer all day. Everyone needs some fresh air. Everyone needs to get out of there. But what are you going to do, and why would you go? You need a spa. You want to sit in bubbling hot water. You want Ayurvedic massage that gives you long life. Oh, and a bit of yoga that rejuvenates you so that you feel full of energy and fresh to go again, in the rat race. And therefore, that is 3. Number 1, place of pilgrimage, Nrsingadev first place. Number 2, go green, eco-village. And number 3, retreat place. And if you do all these things, then you can't go wrong. And of course, book distribution will always be there as a main activity of Srila Prabhupada's movement, and so on. Anyway, I would say these 3 elements, focus on them and see what you can do. And then this place will certainly develop more and more and more. And all of you who are visitors, come back, and soon. We have 2 festivals a year, if you don't know. Every year, to those from the UK, every year we're celebrating the new year here. Did you know that? From India also. बहुत ठंडा पड़ता है यहाँ पर उस समय, कोई चिंता नहीं होगा, तो चलेगा तो, क्योंकि नृसिंहदेव बहुत गर्म है. Nrsingadev, it is very cold at that time, but Nrsingadev is very hot, so don't worry, it will be fine. And the kirtans, I'll come also to heat up the kirtans in case you had any problems. Now, what we do, we make 2 festivals a year. To start the new year with Lord Nrsingadev is maybe not a bad idea in this crazy day and age that we live in. Because I don't know if you notice it, but Kali Yuga is going ahead full steam. So, think about it. Just holiday time, New Year time, cheap flights, off-season from India. Go with your friends. Little tour Europe. Come here on the way, stop in Radhadesh, Bhaktivedanta Manor, and you fly back. There you go. Open jaw. You fly into Munich, out of London. Yes, cheap flights from here. Even Ryanair goes from here to Brussels, Radhadesh. There you go. And from there you catch the train to London. I'll write out the whole trip for you because I travel all the time. Everything. And those from the UK, it's just it's just a hop over the channel, and here you are. And bring the rest, right? Bring the lots. Buses, bus loads, plane loads, bring them all. Gaur Mahan is talking about taking over another guest house in the region. And why not? If you make your bookings in advance, hey, it can be booked all year. Why not? Retreats, and then they can start education, and Nanda Krishna can become a professor, and he'll be really happy about it. He already is on the way. Like this, the potential is enormous. And bring these Austrians. They're only neighbors, right? What are they doing? Sitting in Linz and getting roasted and toasted. No. They should be coming. Right? Absolutely. And in Japan, right? Oh, yes, she's from Japan. And in Japan, they also like Nrsingadev. They do. So tell these Japanese, give them little deities. Just buy a whole bunch. Everybody, all you visitors, buy these small deities. You have more? Not so many this time. Why? What's wrong with you? Are you sick? Give him his vitamin pills, right? Sometimes I buy 10, but you don't have 10 today. Wow. Was ist los? So let these little deities go everywhere, because these little deities go into people's hearts and make them attached to the big one. And then they worship the little one, and then they want to see the big one. So in this way, let Lord Nrsingadev's glory spread all over the world, so that he can be Vigna Vinas and remove all the obstacles from our Kali Yuga hearts. And that will be very necessary and protect us in our Kali Yuga lives. Okay, happy Kali Yuga, and see you again next time. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.